It would be nice to have a score text that shows how many asteroids have been hit. Let's think about how we can implement this. First, we need to add a score UI element to our player widget. Then we need a way to notify the UI whenever an asteroid is hit. For this, we're gonna use interfaces. Creating an interface inside Unreal Engine is very simple. Just open C++ classes, open asteroid game folder and click new C++ class. In this opened window, just select user interface. In my case, I will call it damageable. And I will put my interface inside interfaces folder. Then simply click create class. Our damageable interface is very simple. It has one function, take damage, which is marked as blueprint native event. A blueprint native event requires that any object implementing this interface must override this function. We can do that either in C++ or in Blueprint. Then I have a struct called fDamagePayload. I prefer to use a struct to hold all the data instead of passing each variable as a separate function parameter. This way, in the future, we can easily extend the struct without having to update every place that calls this function. We are ready to use the created interface. First of all, I created a new variable called projectile damage inside toward projectile. Then inside C++ file, inside on projectile hit, I check if other actor implements our new damageable interface. If yes, I create a damage payload, set damage amount to projectile damage, and then I call iDamageable execute take damage. This is how you call interface inside Unreal Engine. Let's implement the interface inside BP_asteroid. Open this file and click class settings and navigate to implemented interfaces. Here click add and select our damageable. Now you should see take damage function inside interfaces. Click right mouse button and click implement event. Now you should see this event graph. Now we can simply copy this actor and connect it to this event. Now press compile, and for the testing we can press F9 to put a breakpoint, and now when we play and hit an asteroid with a projectile, this function will be called. Okay, great, now we have a way of notifying when asteroid takes damage. Player score is a global level data, so it makes sense to store it inside our asteroid game mode. So here I have this asteroid game mode file opened, and first of all I created this dynamic multicast delegate called onPlayerScoreChange, which has one int parameter. Then I use this delegate inside our asteroid game mode class, and I also added getPlayerScore function and incrementPlayerScore functions. And finally I have an int that is called playerScore. Inside CPP file, this getPlayerScore simply returns player score, and incrementPlayerScore simply increments our score and then broadcasts the delegate. Now we can call increment player score from our asteroid blueprint. For this, open asteroid blueprint and here simply type get game mode. Now we can safely cast it to our asteroid game mode. Let's move it here, and then we can call increment player score. And now everything should be fine. For testing we can open our project and put a breakpoint inside increment player score. Now we can press play, and when we shoot, this breakpoint hits and everything seems to be working fine. We are ready to use everything we created. First of all, I open player widget class. Here I have a forward declaration for text block and for asteroid game mode. Then I have an object pointer for text block called player score text block. I also use meta bind widget here. Then I have on player score change callback function and another object pointer for asteroid game mode called asteroid game mode. Inside CPP widget I simply in native construct I get asteroid game mode, then I check if it's valid, and if it's valid I bind on player score change callback to on player score changed delegate. Then I call this on player score change, so this widget can have initial correct value when we open it. Then in native destruct I unbind this function, and this function is very simple. It simply takes new score and uses ftext format. Here we are using NSLoctext. This is a way of localizing your strings inside the code. So as you can see, you need to provide namespace, key, and default English text. So here I have a asteroid game, then this string ID, player score text, and default text. And because I'm using format, this new score will be put inside this argument with 0 index. Then I simply set the text. When we open our player widget, we'll see an error, and that's expected because as you can see, player score text block is missing. So let's add it. Type text and drop it inside our overlay and set padding to 10, and we can give it some text. This text actually doesn't matter because the actual text will come from the code anyway. So, and rename it to player score text block. Yeah, now when we press compile, everything seems fine. Now we can press play, and when we destroy an asteroid, score will increment. Great, that's how easy it was to add score using interface and events callback.